Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my deep dive year into the Thoth system, the system created by Lady Frida Harris and Harris-Crowley. And I've really enjoyed focusing on this system and this deck, and I've learned a lot, and I hope you've enjoyed walking this path of the deep dive with me. I truly appreciate it. And speaking of appreciation, before we get into this week's spread, I'd like to say a couple of thank yous, as is apparently my new habit. Thank you. Thank you to all of you who have already hit that thumbs up button and subscribed to the channel. It helps the channel. It helps you get the videos in your feed. It also helps get the video and the channel in the space of people who might also be interested in discovering it. It helps other people find the channel. So, for those of you who have done that already, thank you very much. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you also to those of you who've reached out for a private reading from me. I really enjoy doing that. And I hope you enjoyed receiving it. So, thank you. And if you want a private reading from me, my email address is below in the description box, thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, we'll get you a reading. Now friends, before we look at the spread, I'd like you to recall last week's video was all about opportunities and change, right? We had opportunities. They might be brand new opportunities, or they could be something we've done before in the past, but we have an opportunity to do it again. And when we have these opportunities that are wonderful at the beginning of the new year, 2024, we might also feel a resurgence of our passion, right? And this week's spread is pointing towards that blossoming of passion that sometimes it's wonderful to just dive into it willy-nilly. This week, we're asked to dive into it consciously, to be prepared to do the alchemy that is called for, to have this passion become something truly viable and truly wonderful. I think that's where this week's spread is pointing towards. We have ideas of balance and alchemy and magic infused throughout this spread. So, we're all ready to dive in. And friends, what am I going to do? First, I will show you the spread. Then we'll talk about it briefly. And then we'll dive into each section and read it in detail. Are you all ready for that? I hope you are, because I am. And that's what we're going to do. Here is this week's spread right now. Friends, this is the last week that we're going to see this spread. I'm about to head off to a winter camp, and I'm going to continue doing videos during the camp and during my vacation in the United States, but they're probably going to be pared down a little bit. Just a fair warning. But we have this 5-element spread the last time for a while. What do you think of these decks? I think they work beautifully together. If you're interested in getting these decks, the Thoth Tarot, the Harris-Crowley version that you see, is semi-available. What do I mean by that? Well, I've trimmed mine down. So the one that I used to trim is available on Amazon and any major bookstore. And I'll have a link in the description box below. And if you want to trim it like I did, it's not that difficult. If you want to know how to do that, let me know in the comments below. I'll guide you in the right direction. So that deck is semi-available. The deck next to it is available on Make Playing Cards, and there will be a link in the description box below. The Oracle deck, I will have the link to the creator's Facebook page so that you can contact the creator and hopefully purchase that deck yourself. I think it's a wonder. Oh no, wait a second. I am lying. I changed out my Oracle decks. That Oracle deck is mass market, and the link for that will be in the description box below. Yeah, so everything's available. And yeah, now, just in case you are brand new here and you've not seen my 5-element spread before, let me tell you what you just saw in brief. There were 5 sections of 2 cards, 5 pairs, right? In the center, there were 2 cards for the ether. Now, ether, spirit, messages from the divine, our eternal selves, yeah? In the upper left, we had 2 cards for fire, which is our passions, our creativity, our sexual drive, also our inspiration. Now, in the lower right, we had 2 cards for water, which is our emotions, our intuition, the unconscious, the deep spiritual connection that we have. Yeah, fire might be the spiritual heights, the spiritual universe, and the water section is the depths of our spirit. Yeah, our internal, our sense of the spirit internalized is the way I would describe it. And then in the upper right, we had air, which is our perspective, our thoughts, our mental sphere. Yeah, the way we see things and think about things and communicate things. And then in the lower left, we have earth, which is our work, our bodies, our resources, the money, yeah, the cash money, but also the other resources we have around us. Yeah, food, our homes, all of those resources. And then there were 2 cards on the very end from a brand new Oracle deck for me. And they give us advice, and we'll look at those 2 last. We'll start with the ether, we'll move up into the air, down to the water, up into the... Just a second, I think I said that wrong. We start with the ether, we move up into the fire, move down into the water, move up into the air, down into the earth, and then we'll look at the 2 advice cards. Okay? Are you ready? Let's dive into the ether. Here are those 2 cards. The 2 cards for ether were, from left to right, the Queen of Wands, yeah, and also the Justice card. Did you notice in the larger spread that there were a lot of major arcana cards in this week's spread? So, just something to keep in the back of our minds, right? A lot of major arcana and a lot of fire. And we start with, again, the Queen of Wands, which is a gorgeous card in the deck by Lady Frida Harris. I think this is a beautiful card. And you'll see that the Queen of Wands is associated with Aries, which is the domicile of Mars, from which cardinal fire's vital attributes enter our world. Now, Crowley associates the Queen of Wands with hexagram 17 of the I-Ching, yeah, which is Sui. It's lake over thunder, because the Queen of Wands is water of fire, right? So lake over thunder. And hexagram 16, Sui, is following. Yeah, Crowley says it's impulsiveness without the direction of creativity. So it can be fickle or disloyal, according to him. So there's a little bit of a sense of lack of direction and lack of continuity, lack of steadfastness with the Queen. And I guess a lot of people think of people who have Aries suns as having those qualities as well, yeah? They're great for coming out of the gate with passion and starting something new, but they don't have the drive or the fixed quality to keep at it till the end. People complain about Aries in that way sometimes, and so I guess that could be appropriate for the Queen of Wands, although I don't see it that way entirely. So, for the Queen of Wands, we have driving will and ambition. Yeah. Now, one person's fickleness could be adaptability, right? So there's adaptability here. And a calm authority. Both the Prince and the Knight of Wands in Crowley's deck are not very calm. Yeah, they can be cruel and in the dark side, but they're bursts of fire that are a little bit out of control. The Queen here has a calmness to her, probably because of the addition of water here with fire. She can be changeable. She can be volatile. All of the fire court cards have a volatility to them in the Thoth system. Because there's water over fire, she can be steamy, which can be unnerving to some people, I suppose. She can be, on the dark side, cruel. She can be remorseless. She can be unrelenting, which is interesting. So, the suggestion for this court card in this spot is to reflect on our need to act. We want to develop a steadiness to our action. We want to reflect on the impulses we have and don't leap into them impulsively. We want to be careful of taking offense or feeling things that are being triggered. We want to be careful of being triggered. Not to say that we want to find our safe space, but we want to be careful that our feelings of being triggered are actually authentic. Not all times of our feeling triggered need to be taken seriously. We have the opportunity to choose our reactions to things. If we're living our lives intentionally, we know that we can choose our emotional reaction. We're not at the mercy of other people emotionally. So if we feel triggered, we can do something about it. We don't have to, doing something about it, not meaning telling the other person that you triggered me and it's your fault. I can do something about it here, right? I feel triggered and I can take care of it here without having to change anything or anyone out there. Does that make sense? So we want to be careful of that right now. We want to be careful that every moment of feeling triggered is not an opportunity to change somebody else. So we want to avoid taking offense. And our feelings of situations being controlling or tyrannical could be because of our own outdated rules, our outdated plans. It could be a sign that we need to change. We need to modify our expectations and our course of action. We want to flow like water more than burn with fire. Because this card again has both, right? It's water of fire. So, we start off the message, the information of this spread with our fire, but we want to use that fire consciously. We want to be aware of it leading us out of control. And that idea is emphasized by the next card, which is, in this deck, it's called Justice. Crowley called it Adjustment. Yeah, this is a beautiful card, right? Yeah, we've got some hints of Lady Frida Harris's art here. I don't know if you can see them. Now, in Lady Frida Harris's card, it's a very stark kind of Art Deco card, right? There's a figure that has their feet, the soles of their feet together, gripping the blade of a sword. Yeah, the adjustment figure is standing, holding the sword between his or their feet, right? And they are the balance of the scales. Now here we see the scales down there at the bottom. Do you see them? The scales? Yeah? What else do we see? We see that the figure, the female looking figure, to me, is holding her arms in the shape of a scale herself, right? There's scales, little bitty scales down here, but her arms form another scale there too. There's also a, what do we call them? A sphinx at the top, which is interesting because Crowley describes the Judgment card as the Sphinx without a secret, because she is purely a matter of calculation. In Eastern philosophy, she is karma. That's a quote from Crowley himself. Yeah, she is the Sphinx without a secret. So that Sphinx at the top is a really interesting and telling symbolic addition. Now the adjustment card, points to the sign of Libra, which is the domicile of Venus. And you'll notice Venus here, Mars here. They're pairs. So we've got a nice pairing here. This is air, this is fire. Air and fire build each other up. They add to each other. So that's wonderful. Because we have Venus in Libra, we also have cardinal air's vital attributes entering our spread. And justice connects Geburah and Tiphereth. Yeah, it connects our severity with our heart. So we have that connection of heart, beauty, truth, and the severity of justice. So it's not cold severity, it's the severity of justice with heart, is the way I think of it. So we have balance, as in the balance being in a delicate position. Yeah? Even the faintest breath of thought can shift it. Think of it like the butterfly effect. Yeah? A little batting of a butterfly wing, in theory, could create a typhoon at the other end of the globe, at the other polarity of the globe, right? So everything is in a very delicate balance here with the justice card or the adjustment card. Every energy must be applied with integrity. And we want to suspend activity before we move into it, so we have a moment to think, to consider, to really see the direction we're going to be acting in. So we want to measure ourselves against what we have decided to accomplish. We want to calibrate ourselves to reality instead of to our perception of reality. We might be seeing things a little bit askewed. So with this card, we want to look carefully and clearly and see that what we are doing actually, and want to do, actually matches the reality of our situations. Now we want to have harmony before action. And we want to, again, balance each thought against its exact opposite here. And if we can combine them, if we can marry those two opposites, we will find the best path forward. Not in wishy-washy moderation, but in precise, alchemized, the steely kind of merged center. That's what we're called for here. So this, combined with this, gives us a really interesting beginning to the spread, right? We've got this fire which is, like I said, blossoming and is available to us, but we don't want to let it burn out of control. We want to use it with clear intent. And maybe that's the title of this spread. Passion with clear intent. And that message is going to be running through the rest of the spread, I believe. We'll check it together, but I believe that is true. We want to, what are we balancing? What are we, with this fire, to use this passion, this energy correctly, what are we balancing? We're balancing our perspective, we're balancing ourselves and our environment, the reality of our environment, our situation. We're balancing aspects of ourselves as well. And we're doing this before we actually take action. Right? Now, let me point out something that I have not mentioned yet, and I think is interesting, maybe important, but maybe not so important. Yeah? I don't know if you noticed this, but here, justice in this deck is numbered 11. Do you see the 11 down there in the middle of that scale? Now, in the Crowley system, in the Harris-Crowley system, the Thoth system, justice or adjustment is 8 and strength, lust, is 11. In this deck, the creator of this deck switched them back to the, switched them to, not back to, but switched them to the Smith-Waite ordering of number. However, the numbers are changed, but the Hebrew letter associations are the same as the Smith-Waite, as the Harris-Crowley deck. Yeah? The adjustment card here is associated with what? Oh gosh, I forgot to write it down. Oops, I made a mistake. But the lust card is associated with Teth, and this one is associated with, it's not Lamed, I forgot the name, but the Hebrew letter association is the same with this deck and the Smith-Waite deck. I'm sorry, and the Harris-Crowley deck. Sorry, I've gotten my systems skewed up. But so the numbers are different, but the Hebrew associations are the same. So that's why this deck, even though the numbering is a little bit wonky, is a little bit different, to me is still a true Harris-Crowley deck, a true Thoth-inspired deck. Does that make sense? I hope so. And I hope you agree, because the little number, is it 11, is it 8, is not nearly as important as the associations and the symbols and the interpretation of the card, right? Of course, right. Okay, so friends, that was Ether. We're ready to move into fire. Here are those two cards now. Here in the fire section, we had, yes, two more major arcana cards, right? We had the Magus and Lust. We're just talking about the Lust card, right? And in this deck, while she did, she, he, they, I don't know. The creator of the of this deck, while he, she, they did change adjustment to justice, kept the title of Lust for this card. And we'll get to this card in just a moment. Let's begin with the Magus card from the Smith-Waite, the Harris-Crowley deck. Gosh, I got myself all confused, and I'm continuing that confusion, aren't I? From the Harris-Crowley deck. So here we are with the Magus. Beautiful drawing. Yeah? You see more than the four tools of the Magus flying around his head, right? Now there's a sword, there's a disc, there's a cup, there's a wand, there's a pen and ink. There's so much symbol. There are so many symbols here. It's wonderful. And the Magus is associated with Mercury, which is domiciled in both Gemini and in Virgo. Gemini and Virgo. So we have the potential of both mutable air and mutable earth in this particular card. But because this is in the fire section, well, actually, because this is in the fire section, both are okie dokie, are wonderful. Yeah, air and fire mutually support each other. They build each other up. Earth and fire are okay. They're neutral. So both associations are just fine here. Maybe the air is a little bit more powerful. And the Magus connects Kether to Bina. Kether and Bina. It connects our wisdom and our understanding. It connects the top of the father pillar and the mother pillar of the tree of life. And it's associated with the Hebrew letter Bet, which is house or home or architecture, maybe even the universal home, which is an interesting association for the Magus, being the one who has actually entered into the universe, entered into the physical plane, and started and is preparing to do stuff here, right? Bet is the Hebrew letter for creation and duality, male, female, which is wonderful for Mercury, because Mercury is basically hermaphroditic, right? Now, of course, hermaphrodite means Hermes, Aphrodite, Hermes being the male, Aphrodite being the female, together hermaphrodite. But if any one of the 7 heavenly lights would be hermaphroditic, it would definitely be Mercury. And so here we have, again, the duality of male-female, but also creation, and creation causing that duality. Now, we also have the rune Aleph. I'm sorry, not Aleph. Aleph is Hebrew. Okay, so Fehu Urus. Urus, which is a wild ox. Its strength, its energy, its speed and courage with understanding and determination. So Urus gives us a lot of power behind the creativity of Bet. Right? So what is the Magus for Aleister Crowley? Well, the Magus is our will. And a lot of people would generally associate will and willpower with the Chariot, but for Crowley, will is here. Will under love. So messages are also possible. Yeah, Mercury is the messenger god. Communication, also. Also manipulation. Yeah. Mercury can be manipulative as well. Can be deceitful and unexpected, all very mercurial things associated with the Magus, according to Aleister Crowley. So, we want to create and be free. We want to absorb and be joyful. We want to divide and have intent. Think of the Justice card a little bit there. But we also want to consolidate and be complete. We want to be careful of overthinking things here, though, because, Mercury and Gemini can overthink things, not make decisions. A little bit of a Libran thing, too. But we want to do all of those things, those magical things of creating and being free, of absorbing and being joyful, of dividing with intent and consolidating to be complete. Very alchemical things, right? And wonderful things to do when we have that inspiration of passion and fire from the Queen of Wands. And joined with this card, to add a little bit more fire, we have the Lust card. And in this card, we see some echoes of the Harris-Crowley deck, right? Now, in the Harris-Crowley deck, the woman, perhaps of the woman of Babylon, is riding this beast whose head looks like it could be a lion's head, but it also has 7 different heads in it. Now, instead of drawing it that way, the creator of this deck has a lion, but you'll notice that the tail has, I believe it's 7 heads. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe there are more. No, there are 9 heads. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it's 7. I was right. 7. Yes, 7 heads. 7 snakes. And the Lust card in the Harris-Crowley deck, there's a huge chalice, but it's supposed to be the grail above. And here you can see in her hand, she's got a cup. So there are echoes here from the Harris-Crowley deck. And Lust is associated with Leo, which is the domicile of the sun. Hooray, I'm a Leo sun. From which fixed fire's vital attributes enter into our spread. The Lust card connects Chesed and Geburah. So we have Chesed connecting to Geburah. In the Justice card, we had Geburah connecting with Tiphereth. So we've got this line of Chesed and Geburah, our loving kindness connected with our severity. Perfect combination for Lust. And then our severity connected with Tiphereth, beauty, the heart of the tree, in the Justice card. So these two pair up beautifully. And the Hebrew letter for this card is Teth, which is new life. It's also a serpent. Note the serpents on the lion's tail here on this side. Teth can also be the possibility of good or the possibility of evil. So we get to choose, I suppose. The rune would be Hagalaz, which is destructive and an unpredictable force. The forces of nature and the forces of the unconscious, that kind of unpredictability. Also, the perfect inner harmony as well. So we have harmony and unpredictability. Those contrasts which are a little bit reminiscent of the contrasts in this card as well, right? Splitting into dualities. So the associations for Lust are energy, action, sex magic, drive, and passion. So we're called to make a decision that will bring the most delight rather than the one that makes the most sense. Here. So if this card were alone, we'd say, do the Queen of Wands but jump into it without hesitation. But the Queen of Wands is paired with Justice. This card is paired with the Magus, with Gemini, with Mercury in Gemini, and in Virgo, where we are called to be careful of overthinking, but think, right? Use our thought to create. And maybe we want to consider following our hearts as well as our minds, but because this one is here with this one, the indication to not follow our own sensibilities and our own sense of what is best and what is correct, I think is softened. That we still want to think about it. That we still want to consider how we're going to implement our passions and our drive and our power. We want it to be delightful and we want it to make sense, right? Both are possible. So where this card alone would be, don't worry too much about it, don't worry about it, but think about it, right? That makes sense, doesn't it? So that's what we've got in our passions here. Yes, enjoy it, have fun with it, create with it, be free with it, and make sure that we're doing what makes sense as well. Not to overthink it, not to over-rationalize it, but think about it and think about it and be clear, be sure. Not, oh, be careful, but be sure, right? We can do that. So, we've got some emotional content to consider. Let's see if that content supports our fire or is going to be in conflict. Here are those two cards. The two cards for water were the Four of Swords, air in water, that's okay, and the Ten of Swords, more air in water. They're neutral. Yeah, they don't build each other up and they aren't ill-dignified. They don't fight with each other. So, air in water is fine, no problem. However, the meanings of the cards are not the happiest in the lot. Actually, in the Harris-Crowley system, well, actually it's the Smith-Waite as well, but in the Harris-Crowley system, the swords, they really are the bummer suit, right? So even though the first card that came out for this section is not horrible, it's not bad. Actually, none of the cards are bad, right? There are no bad cards in the deck, but it's not an unhappy card. It's not a warning card. But again, it's not a bright and cheery card either. It's the truce card. It's the Four of Swords. It's a beautiful card. You see the four swords coming together and their tips meeting in the center of a white rose, right? It's a beautifully drawn card. That white rose of alchemy, of esoterica. And the Four of Swords is associated with Jupiter in Leo, right? I'm sorry, not Leo. What am I saying? Jupiter in where are you? In Libra. Libra. Now, Jupiter in Libra is a little bit odd, but that's okay. For those who have Jupiter in Libra, they love people. They love beauty, they love justice, and justice spurs them to growth. Yeah? Justice, having things in balance and making things be fair and just, helps people with Jupiter in Libra to grow, to expand, to evolve. So, the Four of Swords is here to indicate that this truce is only possible if we are in charge and able to call the truce. This is not the card for the bystander. This is not the card for the one who doesn't have the power. This is the card for the one who has the power to call the truce, to stop the fighting. So, we want to take a position of strength and own what is ours. Interesting, because we just came from the Lust card, which is called strength in other systems, right? In the TDM system and in the Smith-Waite system. We want to return to our base or first principles here. We want to return to our core, which is where we find our North Star, our guiding light, right? We want to reorganize our thoughts and stop decision-making until we've figured ourselves out. We want to take a step back, take a deep breath, and really consider who we are, to claim our authority, our power, and stop fighting, take a step back, and figure out what we're about. What do we really want from all of this? Stop struggling, take a step back, and figure out who we are and who we want to be now, right? And allow our love of the people in our lives, the people around us, our love of beauty, and our love of justice to spur our own growth. Stepping away from and claiming the authority to put a stop to conflict. Not by forcing the other to stop fighting, but by assuming the authority to say, no, we stop, this fighting stops now. Right? That makes sense? And then then take the step back and look within and decide, who am I? And what really is the correct decision for who I am? And that's paired with the Ten of Swords. Because I think this pairing is saying, if we don't do this, then this. Which is the Ruin card. Yeah? It's a beautiful card in this deck. You see the dove above flying up, but the bat below flying down. We have a duality here. We have pairings of trees of life. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, so yeah, it is the tree of life, but the Malkut, the center for the dove above and the bat below, the center is the same Malkut, the same manifestation from the downward pointing tree of life and the upward pointing tree of life. It's an interesting drawing, and it points to the sun in Gemini. Now, people who are Gemini suns are intelligent, they're curious, they're flexible, and they're communicative, right? They talk. Maybe they talk too much. But they have a dual nature. And sometimes that dual nature can help. It can help them be adaptable to any environment. It can also make it difficult for them to make decisions, right? So, yeah, take a step back, figure out who you are, and then you're able to find your North Star, your core beliefs, and are able to make that decision. But here we have that, or we might have a difficulty making decisions. So, this is the proverbial final nail in the coffin, which is dripping blood, according to Crowley. Yeah? Whatever the topic is, it would be best released. Otherwise, it could bring ruination. So, we're called to remove disruptive elements, or no good can come of anything that is happening now. So, in a sense, there's if we don't do this, then we will perhaps be moving in the direction of ruin. Or we can do this and do the proactive things of removing the disruptive elements, of letting those things that are causing the conflict behind that initiated the truth card, let those things go. Right? So, and this is in our emotional place. So, our hearts, our intuition want us to stop the struggle, stop the fighting. Take a step back, look within, decide who we are before we start acting and making decisions. And let go of those things that are causing the disruption that made us have to stop the struggle, right? Let those things go. Remove the disruptions so that we can find peace, avoid ruin. And this is all within our emotional sphere. And then we'll be able to engage with clarity, with precision, the passion and the fire that is available to us now at the beginning of the year. Yeah? So friends, we're going to go into the mind. Yeah, 2 cards of air in the emotional section. We're going to move up into the mind, into the air section of the spread. And here are those 2 cards. In the air section, we had a card for fire and a card for air. Wonderful. Elementally, wonderful. Now, fire and air build each other up. Air and air are mutually supportive. I mean, they're natural pairs, right? So we had the Ace of Wands, wonderful, beginning of the year, lots of aces these two spreads. And we had the Seven of Swords. Not the happiest of cards, but let's start off with the Ace of Fire, the Ace of Wands. Beautiful. Now, this card is beautifully drawn. Do you notice the flames sprouting from the wand, the large club in the center? Those flames are in the shape of the Tree of Life, which is also wonderful. And the Ace of Wands is the root of will, potential growth. So, this wand, it's up to us to grasp it, to catch hold of it. It indicates unlimited energy for a potential project or potential relationship or some other development in our lives. But it requires us. It's not going to happen on its own. It requires us to commit to bringing it into reality, to nourish it, to nurture it, to tend it. It's a flash of inspiration, but those flashes can die out like magician's flash paper unless we tend it like we would tend to kindling a fire in our fireplaces, or out at a kindling a bonfire for magical purposes, or going out camping and cooking, right? We need to kindle these fires. It's pure potential which could go anywhere and do anything or do nothing at all if we don't take care of it. So right now it's abstract, and nothing may actually manifest through this, though there is the energy here. Again, it's all up to us. And so the paired card with that one is this one, right? Now this one is maybe a little bit difficult for you to see. I'm not sure. The lavender is such a soft color that I'm not sure the camera is going to pick it up easily for you. But here it is, the Seven of Swords. We see 7 swords surrounding a dove, right? Well, actually, I'm not sure it's a dove. It actually looks more like a white parrot to me. Actually, I didn't look carefully at that bird before. I think that's a white parrot. Interesting. Speaking bird makes sense for the sword suit. And the title of this card for the Harris-Crowley deck, I keep doing that, the Harris-Crowley deck is Futility. And it points to the moon in Aquarius. Now, people who have their moon in Aquarius can be gregarious. They can be, make friends easily, get along with people easily, but they may be rebellious, and they can also be spontaneous, which is nice. But this card points to snatching defeat from the mouth of victory. That's why it's futility. Now, things have the potential for going really well, and we're just about to somehow in our heads screw it up. Our dreamy vision of the future may cause us also to fall asleep. Now we may lose our focus, we may lose our momentum, we may lose our determination. So it doesn't bode well for projects that appear to be really strong, but it might be okay for projects that seem a little bit weak. Yeah? Because if a project looks really strong, we may become complacent. We might think, okay, everything's fine, it's going to go well, and then we allow ourselves to cause our own defeat. Whereas something that looks weak, like maybe, imagine this spark. If we look at this ace and we think, wow, what a beautiful flame, it's going to be fine all on its own, we allow it to die. We look at this flame and we think, wow, that's wonderful, but I see that it will require some tending, so we pay attention to it. We do the work, and so that this will now be more of a beneficent card to that situation. Does that make sense? Can you see how that works? So, we don't want to just throw money at whatever we're doing. That's not going to be the solution here. Now, we don't want to improve what might seem bad by adding cash to it. And we got that idea in the Ten of Swords, that if things look like they're not so good, let them go. Don't throw cash at it. But we want to be sure that we pay attention. And we want to be sure that the attention we pay is towards our success and is not going to interfere with our own progress, right? We don't want to cause our own defeat when it looks like we're in the path of success. Become our own stumbling blocks. And this card isn't necessarily pointing to you're gonna fail, even though it's called failure, right? It's pointing towards how the possibility of our causing our own failure. And if we do the work that was indicated in the fire section with bringing things together to be complete, dividing things to find our intent, to be discriminating, discerning, letting things go in our emotional realm. If we do that and we see the passion and we know that the passion is calling for our attention, we'll be okay. This is a good thing. Otherwise, we're going to cause our own failure. And we have no one else to blame but ourselves. Yeah? So what are we going to do? Yeah? Do we have any advice or some hints as to what we can do? We've got 2 cards for Earth. Let's take a look at those now. In the Earth, we had another court card and another major arcana. Now we had the Knight of Wands, which is fire. We have the Queen of Wands in the ether, and here in the Earth we have the Knight of Wands, which is fire of fire. And we have the Lover's card, which could be a little bit of ill-dignified card. But let's start off with the fire card, which is not ill-dignified, and yet a little is reason for being wary. Yeah, this is the Knight of Wands. You saw that just a moment ago. A beautiful card. Love the knight riding on this brown horse. You see the energy and the fire and the passion burning through this card. And this card points to Sagittarius, which is the domicile of Jupiter. And we had Jupiter just a little while ago in the Four of Swords, right? So that's emphasized here. We've had Mercury running throughout this spread a little bit. Yeah, we had Mercury in the Magus card, and we had, oh, it's not that many, is it? Okay, never mind. Well, we'll have Mercury in the Lover's card as well. So, back to Jupiter and Sagittarius, yeah? Mutable fire's vital attributes are entering our world, entering our natal charts, entering the question we're asking of the Tarot: how can I live my life more intentionally in the coming week? Well, the Knight of Wands points towards hexagram 51, which is thunder over thunder, which is the suddenness of thunder, which says, be apprehensive, but be cool. Now, be resolute and energetic. Use the power, but don't freak out, and don't let that suddenness knock us off kilter. And the Knight of Wands is the energy of pure action, fierceness, which could be wonderful fierceness or it could be terrifying fierceness, right? There's a swift impulsiveness that is here. It could be cruel, or it could be brutal, Or it could be powerfully creative. It could be one of either of those. It can also be generosity. Now the fire suits, especially Leo and Sagittarius and Aries, are generous, right? There's generosity here. We can trust the fire, but we want to be aware that it can get out of control, more so than the Queen of Wands. So, there's a suddenness, there's an immediacy to this card. It's risky, but it's also revolutionary. The Sagittarians are on the front of the front line, pushing ahead into the darkness, enjoying the game of it, but pushing ahead, revolutionary in that sense. So we're asked to do something brave and bold. Damn the consequences. In this spread, don't damn the consequences. Be aware of the consequences, but do it bravely and boldly. Because we've had a lot of indications that we want to be rational here. Passionate yet rational. Right? So, do something brave and bold. Yes. Damn the consequences. Don't do that. Be mindful of where our what do we call that? Braveness, our courage. Let's say our courage and our boldness are leading us. So we have this card, and that's paired with this card, which is air. Now, fire and air together are hunky-dory. Air in earth is ill-dignified. So let's see how this is going to play. The Lover's card. It's a beautiful card. You see, one of them looks like he, she, or they are wearing the Bruce Lee suit, the yellow suit, although, yeah, Bruce Lee's suit had black stripes and this stripe is kind of navy, but still, I keep seeing Bruce Lee when I see this figure. But here we have the alchemical, the queen and king for the chemical wedding, right? At least that should be the intent. Now, they both look like queens to me here, but still we have one of, well, actually yellow is a cool color as well. So we don't have so much cool and hot here, but we have yellow and blue showing differences. We have the sun and the moon here. One is the sun and one is the moon. Those are an alchemical pair, right? So there's the joining of these two. And in the Harris-Crowley deck, we have the, what could be the hermit, holding the hands out in blessing. And here at the bottom, we've got the hands in blessing as well. We don't see the full figure, but we do see the blessing hands. We don't see the children in this card. But we do have the sense of joining of meeting in the alchemical sense. The actual joining and merging happens in the art card, but here is the meeting and the getting together of stuff, the preparation for the alchemy of the art card. So we have Gemini here, which is the domicile of Mercury, from which mutable air's vital attributes are entering the spread in an ill-dignified place. This connects Binah and Tiphereth. Yeah, so we've had, let's just run through these. Yeah, we had Gebra and Tiphereth. I'm sorry, Gebra would, okay, so if I am the tree of life, okay, so the way I would be thinking of myself as the tree of life is, this would be the mother pillar, this would be the father pillar, this would be the center. Yeah? So Gebra would be here, joining to Tiphereth, Gebra to Tiphereth, in the Justice card. We had Kether and Binah, Kether and Binah joined in the Magus card. We had Kether and Binah joined in the Magus card. We had Hesed and Tiphereth, and Hesed and Geberah. That's right. Hesed and Geberah joined in the Lust card. I'm just going off into the weeds. I'll stop here. And then we had Binah and Tiphereth. Binah and Tiphereth. Okay, I'm losing myself. I'm sorry. I won't edit that out, but we had cards connecting to Tiphereth. 2 cards connecting to Tiphereth. Justice and the Lover's card are connecting to Tiphereth. And anyways, this the Hebrew letter is Zayin, which kind of looks like a little hook. And think of a fishing hook, yeah? It's the symbol for sustenance and nourishment, also a weapon or a sword. The rune would be Kanaz, which kind of looks like a greater than or less than symbol, which is the rune for enlightenment, visions, revelations, inspiration, wisdom, that kind of thing. Passion, vitality and regeneration, creativity and love. Perfect for the lover card, I believe. Lover's card, I should say. This is called Lovers. This is the chemical wedding from Christian Rosenkreutz. Now, the marriage of the red king and the white queen, I believe. Those colors could be mixed up, but those two. Which is the symbol of alchemy, of joining yin and yang, yeah, of joining male and female within each of us to create the wholeness of self, or create gold. So this card calls for the brothers or the twins of Gemini. Yeah? Understanding can only come from the synthesis of 2 identical things, even though they appear to be different. 2 identical things, even though they appear to be different. They're the Gemini twins there. And we may want to do the work of breaking things apart and considering the pieces before bringing them together. Whether we're thinking about business or a relationship or ourselves, we might want to break that thing apart to consider the component parts before recombining them to discover a new whole. And we got a little bit of that in the Magus card, right? Divide and have intent, and then consolidate and be complete. That's echoed here as well. Which is wonderful because we have Mercury here in the Lover's card, and we have Mercury in the Magus card. So what does that mean for these 2 cards together in the Earth? I think what this is saying is, yes, we want to have that energy of pure action with the Knight of Swords. We want to be brave and bold. We've got passion indicated here as well. Creativity and love in the Lover's card. But we also want to do the mental work of breaking things apart and seeing how they work together, how the component parts work together before bringing them back together. But we want to be careful of that because spending too much time on the analysis and reconstitution of this card could interfere with our actually doing the work we want to be doing in the world. If that makes sense. When we're acting in the world, if we can separate out our actions in the world from our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and our passions, we focus on just the work we're doing in the world. If we are so wrapped up, if we're wrapped up in this, we might not actually get anything done. So we want to be careful of not spending too much time doing this and actually getting some stuff done, right? If we spend too much time, too much of our mental space, our emotional space, nurturing the fire of the Ace of Wands, and we don't actually do anything with the fire, we will end up moving, again, snatching defeat from the mouth of victory in the Seven of Swords. Now we want to do all of that swords, air, mental work, that emotional water work, the fiery passion work. But we want to keep moving and doing in the world, perhaps more steadily, right? We want to make sure that we're not so intent on getting ready that we don't do. We want to make sure we don't spend so much time on getting ready and being balanced and is this right, is this right, is this right, that we don't actually end up doing anything. So we want to have passion with intent, but we also want to make sure that we do stuff, right? That makes sense, I think. So we've got 2 cards for advice or summation coming up from an oracle deck. Let's see if those 2 cards affirm or contradict what I just said. Here they are right now. Isn't that an interesting oracle deck? This is called the Oracle of the Radiant Sun, and it's an astrologically based oracle that I just got into my library, and I'm going to be using this oracle for the next couple of months, I think, for my larger spreads, because I think it will be a good addition to working with the Thoth system because it is astrologically based. It has, what is it? It's like 84 cards. So it's a chunky little deck. The size is small. Here's what the back of the cards looks like. Oracle of the Radiant Sun. And you can see it's, let me show you. Here is a, what? This deck is basically US Games standard Smith-Waite sized card. So you can see it's much shorter and a little bit thinner than this card. The bigger card, right? So it's a small in size card, but the deck is chunky because there are a lot of cards. Why? Because it has the 7 visible lights, right? It has the sun, the moon, and the 5 visible planets, which are Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, in each of the 12 different zodiacal houses, right? So there's the sun in Aries, the moon in Aries, all 7 planets in each one of the 12 signs. So, I'm sorry, not planets, the 7 visible lights in each of the 12 signs. So, it's a big deck, but it's really useful, I think, for especially the Golden Dawn style decks, if you want to start incorporating or giving more attention to astrology in your decks. Now, I would also say this is good for the Continental Tarot as well, for example, the Tarot of the Holy Light, because again, astrology, right? So, used differently, but still astrology. And so here we go. We had 2 cards, one of them defense, one of them riches. The titles at the bottom of the cards are a little bit small, but I think you probably saw them. And we'll start with the defense card. Here. Now you see that it's number 2 because it's it's Taurus. Yeah. So card number 1 for each of the planets, or each of the visible lights, I should say. Card number 1 for each of the visible lights will be Aries. Card number 2 will be Taurus. Card number 3 will be Gemini. You understand, right? So it's number 2 at the top because this is Taurus. And the planet, well, this is a planet. The planet is Mars. So we have Mars in Taurus. In the description of the card, you can see there are 3 mounted warriors. Horses reined in, taking a defensive stance against attack, so defense. The coin has a Tauran image which links positive action with material possessions. So action and material gain, you could say. The 6 swords arranged in a pattern, the coin is here, the swords are here. The 6 swords arranged in a pattern suggest that they're there to impress rather than for use. Yeah, they're arranged on a wall rather than arranged in a way for you to grab and start fighting. So at the bottom we've got some struggle going on, but at the top we've got some rewards. So the suggestion for this card is for Mars in Taurus, we may have to defend something that we value. But there are also romantic aspects indicated. I'm not sure that is necessarily part of this week's spread, but it's possible in this card. So there's a potential in ordinary things. We can take the ordinary thing and transform it into something extraordinary. Yeah? Transform them with slow but continued encouragement into objects we value. So we don't have to search for new, shiny, sparkly things that we haven't seen before. We can take something that we haven't been giving much attention or value to, and with slow, continued encouragement, transform it into something of value. Profitable actions are indicated as well, including increasing value. So that passion that we were talking about, passion with intent, could give us reward here. But again, it's not that burst of passion like, wow, something new, something wonderful, something glittery and shiny and valuable. No, it's the passion to take what we have not given value to and transforming it, which takes continued attention and encouragement. Like that Ace of Wands will take continued attention and encouragement to grow. And maybe it's the passion itself that we've had here that we haven't given enough attention to. That could become the thing that's valuable. It could be an object, but it could be the passion itself that could become valuable with attention, continued attention, and encouragement and investment of attention. Which brings this next card into particular importance. This is card 10, which means it is Saturn. Which means it is Capricorn. The planet is Saturn. So we have Saturn in Capricorn. The description here is at the bottom of the card, there's a winged figure of Fortuna. Now the goddess Fortuna in Roman, which is what is the Greek name? Oh, I've forgotten the Greek name, but there's a Greek name. I think it starts with a T. Anyways, Fortuna carries the symbol of her riches. So it carries the symbols of her riches, yeah? The symbols of her riches, the cornucopia, I'm not sure what that thing on the ground is, but the symbols are health, wealth, and the arts. So it's probably an instrument down there. Beside her is a pentacle, the star, the pentacle star, representing man, human being, I should say, and our 5 senses. Above Fortuna, we see a great seal of the fruits of the earth. So, riches. The riches of health, wealth, the arts, also perhaps cash money, the wealth of our body, of our senses, and the wealth of the fruits of the earth, the material resources that we have around us. And Saturn is really happy here. Yeah, Saturn is naturally domiciled in Capricorn, right? Mars, for me, is not naturally domiciled in Taurus. Mars would belong in Aries or in Leo or in Sagittarius, for me. But, so, Mars is not so happy in Taurus, but we get some good stuff out of it. Saturn is a natural home is naturally at home in Capricorn. Yeah? And so Saturn being happy here could point to our desire to make a mark in our lives. Yeah? To have our lives have meaning in the world. Saturn could be calling for extreme discipline and tenacity towards our own personal achievements. Yeah, Capricorn asks for tenacity and steadily climbing up to personal success. And that our greatest success could come with age. Yeah? Hopefully that doesn't make you depressed, but that's a good thing. Yeah, we continue to grow and expand and succeed as we live on the planet. That's a good thing, rather than succeeding early and then dropping down into a pit of mediocrity. Yeah, steady, slow climbing towards, and I'm not a Capricorn, steady, slow climbing towards some continued success and improved success is a wonderful thing. We may want to accept authority on the path to becoming an authority as well. We're asked to learn on our way. And yet we want to remember that all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. Remember from well, it's not from The Shining, but it was used in The Shining. Yeah, all work and no play. So, we want to make sure we're having some fun, but we want to do the things of a Capricorn. And if we do, we will have successful results. We will succeed in the marketplace, whatever our marketplace is, and we might even get some recognition. So, these two cards together, yeah, we've got potential, doing the work, creating the extraordinary from the ordinary, whether it's an object or it's our passion, our changing our Ace of Wands into an extraordinary burning bush, eternally burning bush, which is highly valuable in the Bible, Old Testament. We do that work and we'll find success. And that work will take time and take our learning and take our discipline and enjoying the process as well. Now, all work and no play. Sometimes our play can be our work. If we could change our work into play, if we can enjoy the work we're doing, that's fabulous. And also make sure that we take breaks to take care of ourselves emotionally, sexually, romantically, in our passions as well. So I think these two cards confirm what I was saying about the Earth portion of the larger spread. That we don't want our analysis and our breaking things apart and making sure that we're attending to the fire, that we're approaching what we want to do rationally with intent. We don't want this to stop us from actually moving forward. Because both of these cards for advice are move forward. Slowly. Well, steadily. Not necessarily slowly, but steadily. At a pace, at a proper pace for us. Not too slow, not too fast, but at a proper pace, move slowly. Find that which we have not given value to, and if it is not one of the disruptive things that we were talking about in the Ruin card, the things that we should let go. If it's not one of those things, give it attention. Turn it into the Allow it to be transform into the valuable thing. Transform it into the valuable thing. Knowing that it's not going to be an overnight process, that we will move forward step by step up the mountain. We will learn, we will accept authority so that we can become the authority. We will achieve success, and it might take time. But the Ace of Wands is asking for time as well, and attention, and nurturing, right? The Queen of Wands and Justice combined are also asking for attention and time. And also clarity. Also discernment, right? So this is a wonderfully powerful reading, I think. We don't want to go, we want to enjoy our passion without going crazy, without losing ourselves to it. We want to enjoy it and nourish it and nurture it and allow it and grow it to a bonfire. But one that's not going to get out of control and burn us up in the process, right? It sounds wonderful to me. Does it sound wonderful to you? If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it does not, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I really would. So friends, here we are. Thank you for being on this journey with me. And thank you for forgiving me for my slips between calling it the Harris-Crowley and the Smith-Waite deck. Today seems to be that day for me. You understand, and I know you do. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.